Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Chai with Gary. This is Rangnick's United. Apparently, Gary, it's been 3 games in charge. There were signs in the first 30 minutes against Crystal Palace, but status quo for young boys in Norwich. Um,
Yeah,
and we talk about 3 games, guys, today. We're talking about the Crystal Palace game. We're talking about young boys. Crystal Palace, where we won 1-0. Young boys where we drew, and that was
one
pretty
out.
much a second ring squad, if you may. And the Norwich where we brought back the first team, but performances were just as bad as young boys. So let's break these games down. Gary, what do you think of Ralf Ragnick's first 3 games?
Chai, first of all, welcome back. It's been a while since we've done one of these videos.
Yeah.
Almost
Yeah.
forgotten what it's like.
Yes.
Look, a lot of enthusiasm going into the first of the 3 games.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace, everyone was pumped up for it.
Yeah.
Ragnick's Reds, always gone.
Yeah.
New chapter in United's history. Blah 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 blah. First game, fair enough. We
We came
Yeah,
out of the
look,
blocks
we
like we
came out
had.
of the we came out, guns blazing, fantastic performance. We'll talk about the game a bit later on, but yeah, look, I'm really happy to be back.
Yeah.
It's nice to be a bit more optimistic about United,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's been good.
It's been good. So, did anything of his selections or his gameplay surprise you positively or negatively?
Chai, look, it's still too early to talk about his tactics, but one thing I can tell you for sure: his press conferences
Or no nonsense?
miles ahead of Solskjaer.
Yeah,
Look, the depth he talks about tactics
yeah,
is unbelievable, Chai. I mean, how he breaks down the games, how he breaks down teams, how he basically summarizes our weaknesses, our strengths, what we need to improve on.
yeah,
His view about opposition as well, like how he gave a breakdown about Norwich. Once they sacked Daniel
mm,
Farke, I don't know.
fuck, fuck,
Yeah, and what's his name? Dean Smith, he says Dean Smith plays a bit more vertical,
yeah,
back to forward a lot quicker. So he's done wonders in football. He's been the father of what's his name, uh, Jurgen
Klopp,
Klopp, yeah, Thomas
Tuchel,
Tuchel. So he's got all his people under his tutelage, right? He's had all his
yeah,
people under his tutelage, and all of them have been almost his children,
yeah,
behind his methodology and all that. So look, he's obviously going to bring something different to United from what Solskjaer was going to offer.
yeah,
And look, it's all been positive from what I've seen this past 3 games.
yeah. Look, when there was usually comes with a manager bounce. Now I expected that to carry on for a little longer than it actually did. Fair enough against young boys. It was a dead rubber, and we played a completely different level than what we're usually, you know, used to seeing. But what surprised me again was how we reverted to our boring selves against Norwich. It was quite disappointing to see. And he keeps mentioning, and coming back to your press conferences, he makes 2 points very clear, right? One, we don't have the mentality to kind of keep going. And second, we don't have the physicality. And those are the two aspects of, I think, football that we've kind of neglected over the last 2.5 or 3 years with Ole.
Mm,
And I wanted to get your thoughts on where do you think was lacking? Do you think, first of all, let's talk about his selections, right? I think
mm.
he's he's made some choices that were slightly different, with Dallo and Telles being the, I guess, choice of left back and right back.
Yeah.
There has been slightly different mentality to Fred, and we spoke about how it could be different. But I wanted to get your thoughts on how do you think that players are responding, which, in my honest opinion, I don't think they are. But I wanted to get your thoughts on how they're responding to his tactics.
Um, Look, I think it's a bit too early to say whether they're buying into his philosophy or not. It's been what, a week of training plus 3 games in. It's a bit too
Yeah,
soon, I think. But what I think we can kind of see is that from that first game, he made actually he pretty much played the same team as the team that
Arsenal.
Carrick
Yeah,
put out for Arsenal. So it's pretty
yeah,
much the same team, but he tweaked the formation a bit more. So instead
Yeah.
of playing a 4-3-3, we went with a 4-2-2-2, and saw Ronaldo and Rashford up front,
Yeah.
Bruno and Sancho up in the number 10 position,
Yeah.
and Fred and McTominay is the number sixes. So I think it was very, very different. I think a lot of, I think Crystal Palace could not cope with the pressure that we put upon their defense. And I
Yeah.
think the amount of pressure that we put up against them in the first 30 minutes, then kind of choked at them. But I think we can talk a bit more about it during the actual slide
Yeah,
presentation.
and one player before we actually go and talk about these games individually is to talk about Rashford, and I think he's struggling to some shape or form. I think either his, how do I put it, his weaknesses are being exemplified, or he's just not, his head's not in the game. One of these two things I think needs to be rectified, because we're
Mm.
lacking a creative or a possible good enough forward to pair with Ronaldo.
Yeah, look, I don't know what it is with Rashford because this whole his form has not
Yeah,
been really good this season. I think the only time he had a good game was when he came off the bench for Leicester, the
yeah,
Leicester game, and he scored that goal. Aside from that, I think he's been quite average this season. I don't know what it is, whether that injury, the
he's
effects
still
of the
carrying on.
injury are still playing. Could be a number of things, whether he's tired, fatigued,
Hmm.
but he's just not himself right now, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the issue is. It's a
Hmm.
bit concerning now because we are one third into the season, and Rashford has not really turned up right now.
Hmm.
So like I'm not sure where his head is at this moment.
Yeah.
As we go into this congested fixture list during Christmas,
Hmm.
it's a bit worrying to be honest, Chai.
Yeah. And very quickly touching about the young boys game as well, we fielded a team that was completely new and we didn't have
Yeah.
any of the players. I think it was good to see a lot of youngsters like Diallo and Alanga get time, but we also saw Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka come back into the team for that one.
Hmm.
Now, do you think? Okay, let me ask you this question: do you think Dallo and Teles have shown enough to keep Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw out of the team?
I think they have. Let's maybe we'll talk about it a bit more later on. But I think the evidence was there for the Crystal Palace game. They
Yeah.
played their socks off. They were probably our two
Hmm.
best players on the pitch on the day.
Yeah.
The amount of crosses both of those players put into the box for Ronaldo and Bruno.
Yeah.
Bruno Rashford were,
Mm.
yeah, nothing like what we've done in the past. So it was very, very positive. Now the Norwich game is another story altogether. I
Yeah.
think you can't just pinpoint it to them. I think we just didn't turn up on that day.
Hmm.
We somehow got a win, a 1-0 penalty, thanks to Max Aarons. God knows what he was doing in the box, pulling Ronaldo
Yeah.
down. But I mean, we were very, very, very fortunate, Chai. And I think the problem is, I think the problem is fatigue. Maybe we've
These
not in
guys
terms
had a
of
week
games.
off.
No, yeah, but I'm not saying in terms of fatigue from playing games, but I'm saying I think what's happened is Ragnick's come in and the
Intensity of the training up,
intensity of the
exactly.
training's been upped. So and sometimes some for some players it's just too much to take in a
Yeah.
short period of time. And so look, just looking at Rashford's game as well, I just felt like there were times in that Norwich game where he's constantly thinking about what to do. He's overthinking
Yeah.
things, and because of that he's getting dispossessed. There were numerous times where he had two or three options around him,
Hmm.
and he just didn't react fast enough. So I think there's a question of whether they're overthinking it in their head, because there's a
Yeah.
new philosophy being implemented in the team,
Hmm.
and players are obviously trying their best to carry out the plan,
Yeah.
but it's still new, so it's gonna they're gonna be teething problems, Shy. So
Yeah. Of course.
uh,
Of course.
it's fully expected. So look, despite everything, we got the win.
Yeah.
So really, really happy.
Sure. Now let's actually break these games down and
Yeah.
let's see how we've performed, either similarly or dissimilarly to what Ole kind of puts out, right? So let's go through the Crystal Palace game. Now, this I thought was the best showing amongst the three games, at least from a performance point of view, and I think it's going to be hard enough to deny that as a start. But first 30 minutes, look, okay, so let's actually look at the lineups, right? And as you rightly pointed out, I think there was this is how we finished the game, right? So Greenwood
Mm.
comes in towards the end. I think he comes in the second half to kind of
For
put that
Sancho,
ball in,
yeah.
yeah, put the ball in for Fred. And I think there was periods of the game where I've not seen United play such fluid football or pressing football for the entire season, right? Um, no, talk me through this. I think Crystal Palace was a game that they didn't expect us to come out of the blocks that way. There were a couple of key saves that De Gea had to pull off to kind of keep that scoreline as to what it is, and Ragnick called that out as well, right? So I said, and I think he mentioned saying if some we started conceding or control towards the second half, and it's just a point where we have to be a little more careful. But talk me through what you thought about this game. Who do you think performed better than the rest?
Look, Chai, we came up with the same team sheet as what we played against Arsenal, so it was
Yeah,
quite similar in terms of the personnel that we had. The
yeah,
formation change, obviously, it was a 4-2-2-2 with
yeah,
Ronaldo and Rashford starting up front, Bruno and Sancho as the two number 10s. And then you had, Fred and McTominay as the two number sixes. And so I
yeah,
think we came out there. Crystal Palace obviously did not know what to expect. New
yeah,
manager, new system, and from the get-go, we pressured their backline.
yeah,
Ronaldo and Rashford applied a lot of pressure, even Bruno. And when you look
yeah,
at you'll just look at the first 30 to 35 minutes,
yeah,
the amount of pressure we put on them, they could hardly get out of their half.
yeah,
There was so much pressure on their backline that they kept
yeah,
conceding throw-ins,
yeah.
stray passes, and we almost capitalized
Corners.
on two or three occasions.
Yeah.
So I thought it was, yeah, it looked really, really promising. And then after that, towards the end of the first half, we started
Hmm.
losing um, control of
We
the
started
game. I
losing
think,
control. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we started losing control, and then they kind of got back into the game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then second half, we pretty much lost steam, I think, because
Hmm.
it was a new system, high
Yeah.
pressing game. We just not get up for it just yet,
Just
with the
yet.
fitness levels that we've got. So,
Yeah. And I think this is kind of exemplified by where we saw our
uh,
attacking threat on the heat maps,
look
right?
at that heat map, Chai. Look at that heat map. Never have I seen. Look at how much, how much we've actually played down the wings.
Yeah.
If you look at that, we're pretty much playing. We've gone all the way to the end of the field on both wings.
Yeah.
We played a lot of crosses. You can see that maybe we haven't got as many people into the box.
Yeah.
It could have been a bit more. Yeah,
Interesting if they
Ronaldo.
did bounce the
Yeah,
ball. Yeah.
but I tell you,
Um.
the amount of crosses that Dalo and Tellers were putting into the box, it was
Yeah.
just unbelievable. It's nothing
Unbelievable.
we've
And
seen.
Dallo had a great game. Nothing to take away that performance from him. And there were instances I was like, okay, where was he, and why hasn't anybody looked at it? Because I think if it were not for his defensive frailties, I think he would have probably been the main first pick center back. I think, sorry, first pick right back. But yeah, we have to talk about Fred the Red. We have to.
Man of the
Man, that
match.
guy is. I think he had his best game that game.
Man of the match. I mean, the running, the effort, the tackles,
Yeah,
the energy. I told you this last week. I
yeah,
said Fred was going to be our main player in the system. You look at the amount of energy he's got, his pressing
yeah,
style, his tenacity. It fits perfectly with what Ragnick wants to do in terms
yeah.
of the style of play. And he was our best player, Chai, on the day,
Hands down. Yeah,
um, hands down. And the goal he got was nothing short of deserved for this
yeah,
performance. So really, really happy for him.
yeah,
Great performance. And I think on that day, Chai, it gave us a lot of optimism on what the Ragnick way was going to be. And
yeah,
so, we we got a bit carried away, maybe. We got a bit
yeah,
carried
yeah,
away. Um, you know, because end of the day, it's his first game.
Yeah.
There's going to be a bounce. Players obviously, want to make a good impression for the manager. So we put in our best performance, and second half we died. We wavered away, but you can't not um, congratulate the team for the first half performance.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think just to take something that were probably from one training session to kind of put up a performance like that against Crystal Palace was something noteworthy as well, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and then you look at the stats, Chai. I mean,
yeah,
we we've pretty much look. We've got total shots. We've completely dominated them.
yeah,
Dribbles, yeah, pretty close there. And then aerial duels. The fact that
yeah.
they've got more aerial duels won just
They
shows
have a
that
lot.
yeah, they're defending a lot deeper. They're trying to win headers and all that. Amount of times they've got dispossessed as well because of our pressing. Just
Yeah,
kind of shows what you're seeing there. So all in all, yeah, it was a really really good performance. I thought.
absolutely, man. And going from a really promising performance to, I guess, okay, let's. This is actually a very interesting stat as well, right?
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
we can talk about looking
it's
at the areas where we attacked.
yeah.
Quite skewed. We've kind of gone down the
We've
left,
always
which is
been
kind.
that left, right? It's
We've
always
always
been
been
that
so
case.
left. And if you look at the heat map there,
Yeah,
United's heat map, you can see how we are so skewed on the left.
yeah.
Sancho, Bruno, even Ronaldo. Ronaldo, God knows what he's doing in midfield. Rashford's the only one up there.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it worked. We kind of pressured the shit out of them. We managed
Mm,
to get a lot of crosses in the box from Taylor's side, especially. And if
yeah.
you look at the shots that we've got, you know 6% of the shots that we've got in the box was from the 6 yard
Yeah.
box. And
Which
keep a note of that because we're going to review the other two games,
yeah.
and you're going to see a difference in the other two games.
And you know what's funny? The funny thing is that 50% from outside the box is just something that we've been so used to seeing from Solskjaer times that that needs to change. I think I can take the 44% within the 18 yards box because that's probably gives you a better percentage to beat the keeper than from the
Absolutely.
50%. Yeah. No, it's all interesting. But then we go, the young boys came. Now,
Yeah.
this I did not expect the starting lineup to come out the way it did, and I couldn't fathom it for a second. And I'm like, okay, this guy is actually trying something. But before
Yeah.
we actually go and talk about the performance, which is I think pretty boring in the grand scheme of things, but also need to I think lay the ground rule saying these guys haven't played together quite a while. I mean, Matic is playing as a centre back. You don't see that happen very often. I mean, Lingard, Van de Beek, Mata, I mean, Diallo, Elanga, man, these guys have never played against each other and be hard
Chai,
to find.
Zidane Iqbal, he's a youth
Yes,
player. The
yes,
fact that we've given him an opportunity to play just
yes,
shows you. Okay, it was a dead rubber game anyway. Okay,
that's right.
we've gone through, we've topped the group. That's fine.
Yeah,
But the
hmm,
fact is, he made all his changes, and we still came away with a 1-all draw.
yeah,
Okay, look, don't get me wrong. Young Boys was the better team on the day, and we go through the
yes,
stats a bit later on. But the fact that, as you mentioned, these players have not played a single game together as a team just amplifies um, just how good manager Ralf Rangnick is. He's managed to get some basic fundamentals in the team.
yeah,
In fact, I mean, there's some good players there, young players, Elanga, Diallo, um, Greenwood. Obviously, we know about him, and then
yeah,
Zidane Iqbal as well.
yeah,
Like I think there was a lot of positives to take away from the game, despite
yeah,
it being a 1-all. A lot
yeah.
of the young players got a chance to show what they're
Kind of.
about.
But did they take the opportunity, especially the more experienced players? Now, I'm going to ask you about two players in particular, actually three. I'm going to talk to you about Matic. I'm going to talk to you about Van de Beek and
Mm,
Lingard. And Matic, I can give him a break because he's playing completely out of position. But what he felt like a ball, he treated the ball like as though it was. a bomb really, and he just
Yeah.
didn't want to be anywhere close to it. There were a couple of very blatant errors that should never have happened. He lost composure a few times. But talk to me about Van de Beek. I think his mistake resulted in the goal that did eventuate for young boys.
Look,
And
I thought Van de Beek had a decent game. Okay, like I
mm,
mean, yes, that goal was unfortunate. He should have
yeah,
cleared the ball for
mm,
whatever reason. Taking another touch, passing it around the just outside the box was just ridiculous. But despite conceding that goal, I thought he had a really really good game. He
yeah,
was a bit more energetic. He was trying to link up play. Um, I thought he had a decent game. Lingard, on
yeah,
the other hand, was a bit more disappointing. I thought
yeah,
he just looked to me like he was not interested. I could be
yeah,
wrong, but the impression that I got was that he looked less interested to stake a claim
yeah,
with his performance. He looked very lethargic, and normally the Lingard that
yeah,
he's all over the shop chai. He's running up, down, left, right. But
yeah,
this time, this game, he just looked a bit reserved, very
yeah,
very quiet game. And I think I think he should have come off a lot earlier.
yeah,
He came off towards the end of the game, but I think he should have come off a lot earlier. Chai,
yeah.
we should have brought one of the youngsters in. I mean, you've heard stories now with Lingard being offered this new contract from Newcastle, and it
Yes,
looks like he's going to go.
probably
So
take it. Yes,
And I was just look, yes, it was good to have the youngsters, but I just didn't understand the logic behind playing players like Meta and Matic. I thought
yeah,
if you're going to play a youngsters, just play it. Even if we get trash 5 or 6 nil try,
yeah.
at least you can hold your chest high and say
You gave the
we've
youth a
played.
chance.
Yeah, give the youth a chance. Let them feel what it's like. Let them take responsibility for
I
that for performance. So I thought that would have been a bit.
I think it was also an opportunity, and I think Ragnick kind of pointed it out as well, right? So there were two reasons why he played this game, and I think he was very clever in the way he answered that question. I think one of the reporters just pulled him up and said, "Why did you play the squad you did? Did you underestimate, in hindsight, young boys?" And he said it's not about underestimating young boys, but it's about giving people a chance who I think deserve a chance, and
Mm,
giving people who haven't played or haven't had much of a game time a chance to prove what they're about, right?
yeah,
I think the only player who came out of it with far, I mean, apart from Greenwood, I don't think anybody made like a daring claim to displace anybody of essence from the first
no,
team,
no.
realistically. Van de
And
Beek,
I
if
don't
not for
know,
that
Chai,
mistake, uh-huh.
if you saw that during the game there was a point. I think actually when Shaw was being substituted off the
Yeah,
pitch, he looked pissed off, man. He was pissed off with the manager, and I think Ragnick had a word with him, and
yeah,
apparently he'd been asking Shaw to push up a lot more to provide
yeah,
support to Langa.
uh-huh.
And Shaw wasn't doing that, so he got hooked off in the game. So look, when Solskjaer was there, would this have had happened?
No.
Probably not. Shaw would still be doing what he was doing. He'd still be playing there. Um,
And you
so
know
I'm,
what?
I'm
If something were that happens, he would have come started right the next game, right?
definitely.
Yeah,
There was
and the
no,
fact that he didn't start against Norwich means
I
that
think, yeah.
yeah, look,
I'm really happy about Teles and Dalo. I
Dalo,
think what they offer, just based on the Crystal Palace performance,
yeah,
was miles and bounds ahead of what Wan Bissaka and Shaw have given us throughout last
this
season
first
and start
season.
of this season. So it looked quite promising, or looks quite promising right now.
Going back to your point about the heat maps, now this doesn't feel as attractive as it did in the first game, and obviously so because I think we were just trying to figure ourselves out. There was more, I think, uh,
Yeah.
they. I mean, this is the Norwich slide, right?
Oh, okay. Mistake that. Young voice. My mistake. Okay. Anyway, I'll talk young boys. Look, the
Let's actually go down to that. Maybe it's here. Oh, that's
just
good.
Norwich. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just talk about the. Just go back. back
Good
on.
as well. So,
Yeah. So let's just talk about this, okay, quickly.
yeah,
So we obviously a lot more skewed on the right side in terms of attack. I think we use the Ahmad Diallo flank a lot more. But what I
yeah,
realized is when you look at that game, the link up between Wan Bissaka and Diallo, I just didn't feel for each eye. You know,
yeah.
quite often I'd see Wan Bissaka attempting stupid passes for Diallo. Diallo had
Yes,
no
chance of getting
option,
in.
no chance, no way of getting the ball. And I think we spurned a lot of chances starting attacks from that side. So
Yeah,
it was very disappointing. And I think Wan Bissaka, you have to count out right now. I don't think it's good enough right now
yeah,
for the way we want to play because you look at the way Ragnick plays, he uses
yeah,
the width of the pitch,
yeah,
in terms of using the fullbacks to bomb down the flanks and put
yeah.
crosses in. One Bissaka cannot put a crossing to save his life. So,
And you know what's also interesting? I think most of the game that I watched anyway, we could see Van de Beek drifting more towards the right hand side than the left, like what Bruno does. Bruno tends to drift towards the left. So obviously, I don't see this as too much of a surprise, where Bruno is supporting the transition between Wan-Bissaka and Diallo, and he was drifting much to the right. So
yeah.
most of our attacks did eventuate from that. So it's
Mhm.
not. And also for these players, I don't think there was a clear target man, right? So yes, obviously the goal did come from Luke Shaw's cross into the box to Greenwood, and it was a great finish by Greenwood. Let's not take anything away from that goal, but there wasn't a target man for these for the kids, the wingers to aim at really. So it was a
Yeah.
plan that was never going to work, and Matter should have bloody buried that chance that he did have.
Oh
Or
my God. Yeah. That was a bit disappointing. But
yeah,
Chai, if you look at the average positions, right, on the bottom right,
yeah,
you see how more withdrawn we are in terms of attacks. See, the average
yeah,
positions, we should be a lot higher in the pitch,
yeah,
but we're not. Because obviously, one is that whole bunch of new players playing together,
yeah,
unfamiliar with play styles, unfamiliar with how each other different players play.
yes,
And then also, I think a lot younger players there. So obviously, when you're younger, going to be a bit more reserved in terms of maybe your passes and things like that.
yeah,
And so I think, look, overall, I think yes, we got a one all draw. We could have probably played a lot better, but I think it's good. It's good to put the youth out there, Chai. We've got
yeah,
to give them game time, and we've
yes.
got to let them, yeah, get some experience.
Absolutely, man. I had no
Mm.
questions about why he picked the team he did and stuff like that. I think whatever he did, I think he looked at it as who do I keep, who do I coach, who do I throw out, and I think he's probably formulating his answers in his head as we speak, and then January will culminate those answers for us, Jen.
Mhm.
And then the Norwich game, I think this definitely was the worst performance of the three.
Yes.
I don't know where to begin with this. I think we bought all of our all of our first team back for this game, and no, you know what? This just formation looks wrong to me. Just like a Tetris block or an inverted pipe, whichever way you see it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, talk to me about this game. I didn't see it as it was a very Ole's performance. Literally, if you didn't tell me who was the United manager, I would say Ole, right?
Yeah. I, it's a bit of a hard one because I think what's happened with Norwich is that, yes, in the last few games, they've been playing pretty shit.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the start of the season, rather. They had a different manager there.
yeah,
We had, what's his name?
yeah,
Daniel Fark. Yeah, he got
mm,
sacked. Obviously, results were not going well. And then, this guy, Dean Smith's come in. Dean Smith has really changed the way the team plays. They
yeah,
play a lot more vertical, as Ragnick said in the game. Really, really positive, forward play.
mm,
And so, dude, from the start of the game, they put a lot of pressure on our team.
yeah,
So much pressure on us. Even from the first minute, we could hardly get out of their box. and the amount of pressure that they put on us was just unexpected. I think I don't think we
Unexpected.
expected it. I like because I went to this game. I thought it's going to be an easy 3-0 or something like that. Chai.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Woke
So
up, put
did a
my
lot of
alarm this
people.
morning at 4:30. Got up to watch the game, and then saw the shit performance again. And I was,
Man, we were, if
I
not
was
for.
almost waiting for Ragnick to pull his mask off and to reveal Ole.
I think that's
It's,
the problem, dude. See, when what pisses me off with this whole interim manager bullshit and the fact that McKenna and Phelan are still there, they don't have the integrity to just leave like Carrick did, and he's always in Ragnick's ear, and you'd be like, "What are you even qualified to make those statements, McKenna?
Chai, did
Just
you
chill."
see Ragnick's? I think it was a pre-match conference, the Norwich game. He said, so I think the reporter asked him, so with the structure of the coaching right now,
Yeah.
you've got, Michael Carrick's gone now, and
Hmm.
you brought in this guy, Chris
From
Amos, I think, from
yeah,
New
from
York
the
Red
US.
Bulls.
Yeah,
So is he going to be taking over what Mike Phelan does? And I
yeah,
think what Ragnick said is that, Mike Phelan is still going to be doing his thing there. He's part of the coaching team, but he never comes out for any training session. He sits there, is never involved with the coaching discussions, and pretty much just called him out. I think it
Jesus.
was just something um, extraordinary. I've never seen anything like that. It was just, yeah. Look, it's what everyone is thinking. No one's had the guts to say it.
Say
I think
right.
fair enough to Ragnick. He's called him out and he said, "Look, I I honestly don't know what Mike Phelan does at the club." So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even from the substitutions point of view, it just felt like a very Ole-esque with Van der Beek coming on for the last 2 minutes, and it's just not done right.
Chai, it was not. There was no pressing, Chai. Literally, there was no pressing. We were so passive, I thought, during the game. We couldn't string any passes together. I think
Hmm.
Fred and McTominay were the only exemptions to criticisms, I think, for this game, because I think the two of them had a pretty decent game. McTominay, obviously, I was quite surprised that he had a good
Yeah.
game, but I think where we lost the game was in the final third. Chai.
Yeah.
I looked at Rashford. I don't know what's happened with Rashford, right?
Yeah.
Rashford in the past, you can always credit him with, at the very least, Rashford, go out there and give me your all,
Yeah.
give it a good shift. This game, he absolutely did nothing. He was so passive. He didn't make the runs. He didn't pressure. And then you compare to what Ronaldo. Ronaldo didn't have a great game, but still, you can
Yeah.
see him making recovery runs. You can see him putting pressure on their defense. And Rashford, I think, I was quite surprised for him to last
Yeah.
the entire 90
He should
minutes.
have been hooked,
He should have been hooked, Chai. He should have been hooked.
and which
Um,
is which is what leads me to believe that it was a very Ole game because Ole would do shit like this as well, and that's the
yeah,
ones that we've been criticizing him about, right?
yeah.
Saying,
And look, Gian makes a good comment here. Like, why take off Sancho when he's
mm,
the one creating? I was frustrated at that point. I mean, like, even in the last game against Crystal Palace, I think Sancho was doing really well, and all
hmm,
of a sudden you take him off and bring Greenwood on. I just, for me, when I look at the front four, Sancho is the only one who was, being a bit more careful with the ball. Bruno
yeah,
had his worst game ever. Stupid shots, uh, ridiculous passes. It was just horrible, Chai. Sancho
yeah,
was at least trying to, pass and go, create chances, look for runners. And I
yeah,
was quite disappointed when he got hooked off,
disappointed.
to be honest.
Yeah, and I think it's driven by McKenna or the conversations that keep happening behind the scenes with him, and it's just we should
McKenna is
have,
still here, Chai.
yeah.
Can you please?
I can't believe that. But
Never mind, McKenna.
never
What is
mind.
Phelan still doing there, Chai? What does he do?
Phelan's taking his long service leave in
It's long
United.
service. It's,
Oh man, it's so
at
funny.
least, in the past, he used to wear shorts at least. Now there's no shorts, there's nothing.
I think he's there for a
Yes.
meat pie and a pint, dude. That's about it.
it's, it's up to the pub, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, dude, it's just
Yeah,
um,
look,
I
when you
mean,
look
what
at
can
the
you say? I think,
stats,
yeah,
right? So, okay, Norwich had 78% pass accuracy. We United had about 82%. And then you look at the total shots, quite even.
yeah,
Dribbles also quite even. But the one thing that kind of stood out is basically the aerials won. So just looking at that, Chai, we're quite dominant in the air. We won a lot of the aerial duels. Maguire, I think, was quite key. But I think kind of shows, how many times we were threatened in the box. We
yeah.
had considered, I think, how many corners did we concede? Yeah, six. Sorry, 8 corners. We considered 8 corners against their six. So we got outplayed, Chai. We got outplayed.
Outplayed, yeah.
We got outplayed.
And
Um,
let's just hope it's just a message that's been translated and digested by the team, and hopefully makes for a better showing next time around. I think we do play Newcastle or someone like that, don't we? Next week
yeah, we play.
we play
No,
Brentford next.
Brentford. Oh my God, this is going to be a hard game. It's going to be a
That's
hard
going to
game.
be a hard game, but
It's going to be a hard game.
look again, as you said here, there's it's a very Ole's performance, and then it's kind of good to see some shots actually being played in the 6 yard box or at least attempted
Yeah,
by Norwich, and you see that 18% to the 0%,
just
and it's just that's a very Ole performance, right?
look.
You
Let's
shoot
look
and
at
you
that
hope.
average player positions. Look at how structured Norwich look.
Hmm.
Okay, and then you compare to how compact we are in this game. And
Yeah,
for me, the issue is that when you look at Teles and Dallo, they're the ones essentially providing width for the team.
yeah,
They're obviously sitting in their own halves as well. So
yeah.
it's a bit frustrating because we saw positive signs going to the Crystal Palace game. The
Mm,
first 30 minutes, Chai, made me realize that, okay, maybe there's going to be a change. Maybe this transition into Ragnick's Gegenpress is going to be a lot quicker.
yeah.
And then we've kind of fallen back into bad habits. And it was a
We've
bit disappointing for me.
and I don't mind, right? And this is not something this is not something that this should actually this is something that we should come to expect, because you'd always revert if you're under pressure, you'd always revert to your bad
Yeah,
habits, right? And that's
yeah.
fine, that's okay. But it's at least if that's shown like
At
instances of what
least
they did in Crystal Palace.
try for the first 10 minutes, even the first 5 minutes at least,
Yeah,
Go
exactly. And then
just try. And then if you're tired or what, then that's fine. What I want to see right now is the performance, Chai. And I
yeah,
think Ragnick, he came out of the post match and he said, look, we didn't match Norwich's physicality.
yeah.
Basically indicated that maybe technical players, i.e., Sancho,
Mm.
needed to be taken off to bring on
A little more physical
Greenwood,
players, yeah.
which
But
which is
then he
surprising to
said
me because Greenwood's not really a physical player. But
physical,
anyway,
exactly, which kind of he okay, I guess, I kind of know where he's heading toward, defending his substitutions and stuff like that. But look, at the end of the day, 3 points are 3 points. I couldn't care less how they come from, how they come, where they came.
yeah.
But next is Brentford. What are your thoughts on Brentford? That's Tuesday night, right?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, Chai, because they play. If you think Norwich played well,
Yeah,
Brentford is going to take one step further.
yeah.
They're very very structured. They play.
They play
I think
quite
they play
attacking
front
football,
foot.
right?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
play attacking football, and I'm quite worried about the defense because I think in this game, this Norwich game as well, there were signs that we were quite fragile. David De Gea had the game of his life.
yeah.
Okay, had so many shots where he saved.
Hmm.
Without him, I think we would have definitely lost this game 2 or 3-0.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
he kind of kept us in the game. So I'm quite worried about teams
yeah,
that, with Sota's time, it was the other way around. It was teams who sat back we were most scared about. Right
yeah,
now, it's almost that teams that kind of push us forward, um, push onto us, we should be a bit more careful about. And I
yeah.
think Brentford might be a bit more of a challenge just because the pace and the energy that and the pressure that it'll put on our defenders
Yeah,
may be a problem if it's Maguire
yeah.
that playing. So I don't know.
Oh,
I'm
let's hope
hoping we
very much.
get even another 1-0 win. I'll take that
Yeah.
until we can kind of, cause sorry, shut up. What was that? uh, like we need um we need to get a period where the manager can work with the players for a solid week, just a
Yeah,
training session, get
yeah,
the team acclimatized to the new
yeah,
tactics, the new system, the new style of play, and
yeah,
hopefully, I think after the 18th, we've got a 10 or 14-day break,
yeah.
which hopefully the
And
manager
then the
can,
fixtures will come thick and
and then the
fast, right?
fixtures will come thick and
Thick
fast,
and
right?
fast.
So
That's the
yeah,
Christmas period. It's always been the busiest
it's
of the
all
lot.
yeah.
But yeah, it'll be good. Hopefully, it's a good Christmas or just as good as it was last season. I think last season we went on this impeccable run during Christmas and New Year's. I think we just,
Yeah, look,
yeah,
I
that set
think
the stage.
you can't really compare against last season, Chai. There were no fans in
Uh,
the stadium. Solskjaer keeps harping on about this 28 game unbeaten run, which is fine and good, but when the fans there, I think it's a different story
yeah,
altogether. So mm.
yeah. So looking forward to those games. But on that note, Gary, Ralf Ragnick's looking exciting. At least initial stages. At least he conducts himself really professionally. I think he doesn't say a lot of buzzwords that we're so used to, passion,
No,
hearing such as passion, fine margins, and shit like that. And he calls out people who need to be called out. I think that's another step in the right direction. But
yeah, I think is a lot more transparent, Chai. I think that's a key word. The transparency in terms of what he wants, what's happening with the group of players. I
mhm.
think it's a lot more transparent compared to when Solskjaer, Solskjaer won't even talk about tactics, Chai. Like
Yeah,
it's maybe he didn't know what tactics were in the first place, maybe. But I
yes,
think at this level, you have to have um, some ability to communicate your tactics to reporters and all that. I
yeah,
think the fact that he had no knowledge about tactics, I think, was not really good. I think Ragnick has done the exact opposite.
yeah,
In fact, maybe he's revealing too much. Some would say, maybe keep some of your cards close to your chest.
yeah,
But yeah, look, I'm really happy with the manager. I'm more happy about what happens at the end of the season when he goes upstairs, hopefully,
yeah.
and he can kind of bring the structure that we much need at this club.
Much desperately need.
Mm.
On
All
that
right.
note, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I think it's been a week in transition where we saw the upset Crystal Palace to stay the score at Norwich. I think there'll be more of these volatility until the team comes to grips to the new manager and his tactics. Um, Join us next week for a similar stat review of the week and a weekly update of how things were going with United and all things. Probably we should start talking about who Ragnick wants to bring in and ship out as well. That's something that will be quite interesting and keeping a key. We should keep a eye out for that. But
Yeah, for
until
sure.
next time,
Look,
yeah, exciting, man, exciting.
exciting. Yeah.
So until next time, guys, this is Chai with Gary. Join us next week for a similar show. Until then.